Hey guys, this is Mr. Fry. This is my first attempt at a YouTube video to help you study for one of my quizzes. And this one is specifically for Chapter 14, which we only covered sections 1 and 2 of. So this quiz is only 15 questions, multiple choice, and 2 math problems. Let me cut right to the chase. You'll notice on screen I have your study guide. This video is not going to be fancy because that's all you're going to see the whole time, but I'm going to talk about what each one of those objectives may look like as test questions. For example, the first objective: describe the conditions that must exist for a force to do work on an object. You need to be prepared to see a list of actions and determine whether or not work is being done when those things take place or not. So examples of that would be things like climbing stairs or pushing a shopping cart. Keep in mind that for a force to do work on an object, the force has to be acting in the same direction that the object is moving. And that pretty much takes care of the first objective there for both questions that will show up on that quiz. The second objective for calculating the work done on an object, there are 3 quiz questions that deal with that. To be prepared for that objective, you need to know the units for work, which is the joule, which is abbreviated as a capital J. You also need to be able to do simple work calculations. And again, this is for the multiple choice portion of the quiz, so you do not need to show your work when you do this, but in order to arrive at the correct answer, I would highly recommend working it out in any free space you have on your answer sheet or beside the questions. So that should take care of objective number 2. Objective number 3 for describing and calculating power. You've got 4 questions that deal with that, and those are split up between the following. So you need to be aware of the unit for power, which is the watt. So W-A-T-T, abbreviated a capital W. That's the standard unit for power, the SI unit for power. You also need to know what the power of a machine is actually measuring. And in class we discussed that power is simply a measure of how quickly work is being done. In other words, it's the rate at which work is done. Just like the previous objective, number 2, with calculating work, the other 2 questions that deal with the objective 3 for calculating power, you need to be able to calculate a simple power problem, so solving for how many watts when you're given the force, the distance, and the time it took for the action to take place. Again, that's multiple choice. And then you need to be able to evaluate statements regarding what you would need to do to maximize or to increase the amount of power that a machine is producing. So and you need to remember from class, in order to maximize power, one of 2 things would need to be true. You would either need to accomplish the work that you need to accomplish in shorter amount of time, or you could accomplish more joules of work in a given amount of time. But if you look at the equation for power, it's work divided by time, or in other words, it's joules per second. So it should make sense to you that in order to have a bigger value for power, in other words, in order to have more watts of power, the machine or the person that's exerting that power would either need to get more work done or to get that work done faster in order to get power to go up. So the 4th objective is to compare the units of watts and horsepower. You should remember that 1 horsepower is approximately 746 watts, or in other words, about 750 watts. You should also know how to convert a given number of watts into horsepower. And you would do that, just for example, if I said 10,000 watts, how many horsepower is that? You would take that 10,000 watts and divide it by the 746, or in other words, about 750, to get the number of horsepower that would be. Okay. Your next objective is objective 5, and that's to describe what a machine is and how it makes work easier to do. So for that one, you need to know that a machine is a device that can multiply force. You need to remember that a machine can never can never produce more joules of energy than what was put into it. So machines do not multiply work. They do not do that. In other words, and we talked about this extensively in class, machines can never create energy. So you always get less work out of the machine than you put into it. Okay, let me see. We got one more question on that objective, and let me get you ready for that one. You need to make sure that you remember that how machines do work. So some of the examples we looked at for that was like changing the direction of a force, like with boat oars or a pulley system. And I think that pretty much covers that objective. Let me move on to number 6. The final objective is to relate the work input to a machine to the work output of that machine. So for those, you need to know how a machine makes work easier for people. And you need to be able to pick out from a list one of the things that a machine does that makes work easier. And we talked about those extensively in the PowerPoint. You guys can go back and look at the 3 ways. Again, 3 ways that machines make work easier for us by modifying our forces. And then finally, you need to know how you can make the work output of a machine greater than the input. And if you think about that for just a minute, again, listen to that question one more time. How can you make the work output of a machine greater than the work input? That's a multiple choice question. I'm not going to tell you what the options are to answer that, but if you listen to it closely and paid attention during class, you're going to know how to answer that when you see the answers. So that takes us through the 15 multiple choice questions, and then there's going to be 2 math problems. One of them is using the work equation, and one is using the power equation. Guys, I hope this helped you. I'll publish it to YouTube and send you guys the link right now. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.